Hello, everybody, and nice to meet you all behind the camera. So there is a big group of people from a huge amount of countries, and thank you for James for bringing the insights on the smart buildings. And I will be continuing on the same topic, that what makes buildings smart and how to create them. And as James was mentioning, so it's quite wide area and there are different aspects, and many of you are already working in the smart buildings area. As mentioned, 40% have been already implementing this, and 23% planning to do it soon, and rest probably a bit later. So we can be discussing also about this, what is smart and what is a building quite much, and as James mentioned, so there needs to be a purpose for everything, and there are different aspects. And we can be also comparing this, that there is also different definition of the smart people. So people can be smart in mathematical point of view, they can be smart in languages, they can be smart socially, or they can be smart football players in tactics point of view. So there is huge amount of definitions. And of course it's a bit similar thinking can be applied to buildings there. But there are some commonalities in the methods how they can be made smart one way or another, and those are typically the common ones. Everything starts typically from gathering data from various sources related to building, meaning that, for example, occupancy data, environmental parameters, it can be weather forecast from the internet, it can be calculating of how many people have been going there, it can be the settings of the HVAC system or whatever. And then the data needs to be transferred something. So it's then about the processing and integrating the data, combining it some way. And then James very well brought this up, that the design and planning phase and building phase takes only about 5 years maximum on the building, and then 60 years it's about using the building, and then there are the people who are using it one way or another. I will be coming back to this later. But then it's about bringing data visible to the people or to other machinery. And then the final step is utilizing the data somehow. So these are the typical stages, what you probably are aware of. Then one key question is that who we are dealing with. So who do we want to be making the building smart? Is it, in the beginning, is it the construction company? Is it the design company? Is it the building owner or investor? Is it then in the usage phase, the facility management company? Is it the cleaning company? Or is it the tenant company who's then using the building? Or is it during the 60 years phase, is it the end user, i.e. employee in commercial buildings, or the other ones? Or is it someone else? Or is it CFO of these? And when we are thinking about this, so of course, always there is a human behind of this one. And we should be thinking when we are making this smart, the human aspect. It should be one way or another human-centric. And our thinking is that there should be a common building user interface in each of the buildings. That's the way to make them smart. By the way, in that picture on the right side, so there is the Edge building from Amsterdam. I think that's one of the most famous smart buildings done, and it was built some years ago, but it's still one of the benchmark that what can be done and others. And one of the key messages from the companies who are working there, Deloitte, that it's one of the key aspects in their company to attract talented employees. As we know, so in some areas there is a big competition ongoing of getting good employees and attract those talented employees. So this is one aspect in the competition. Then there is huge amount of possibilities which kind of data can be utilized. Typical ones are environmental data on temperature, humidity, air pressure, which can be then made available for the end user, that they are able to select a convenient place to work. Or then it can be used the combination of the HVAC to control the AC items. More specifically on air quality, for example, CO2, total TVOC values, or even radon gases can be detected there. And then during this strange year, the occupancy data usage has been getting very popular for the needs that it's possible, for example, to get the occupancy data of the desks and rooms, the usage rates, then to show the free meeting rooms, you are able to make visitor calculations and for the demand-based cleaning. So you're, for example, able to calculate if there has been a certain amount of people in the room, and then you are able to make the cleaning part there. Then one big thing is the location of people and assets. For example, you are able to see where are your colleagues, if they are sharing their position. And then, for example, in hospitals, nurses can be saving huge amount of their time when they are, for example, able to find wheelchairs online. So they are able to check from their app that, okay, they should be getting a wheelchair, and they are able to get it exactly into place, instead of wandering into huge corridors in the hospitals and taking half an hour to find a specific wheelchair. Smart buildings can be helping, for example, on this one. Then in many cases, for example, protecting a technology point of view, detecting water leakages in warehouses or other buildings, having different kind of fill rate measurements in dispensers, for example, in washrooms, toilet paper dispensers, toilet paper dispensers, trash cans, and they are also part of this demand-based cleaning. Now that the office buildings their usage level is varying a lot at the moment. So there are people working remotely or at the office, or there are visitors or others. So it's quite inefficient to make these typical time-based cleaning circles or rounds instead of making those demand-based. So they should be only cleaned when they have been used. If there has been 2 weeks that nobody has been using the premises, so there is no need for cleaning. But if you have methods to measure when there has been people using that one, so then you're going to be doing that demand-based cleaning. Then, of course, these technical items, what also James mentioned about this HVAC controlling, measuring power and water meters, remote reading of those, they are typical use cases. And for example, lighting control is one thing. So controlling lighting in a way that doing the energy savings, or then getting the convenient lighting for the different working occasions and needs to make employees work in the optimal lighting always. So there is huge amount of different data possible to be used there. Then we are going into more details in technology. And McKinsey, famous consulting company, last year published a study where they defined the different layers of IoT solutions, for example, the smart buildings, and then about technology maturity, and then also the market size. And it's showing, starting from the bottom, that there is devices, which are connected devices one way or another, which are the data gathering points. Then connectivity, where the data is transferred somehow into further use. Then next step is the enabled platforms and cloud computing, where the data is processed and stored. And then enabled platforms mean that there needs to be some kind of a maintenance function in the devices what you are controlling there. So for example, there would be endpoint protection and access management, and then also, for example, monitoring of the system usage, and then updates on the devices in software point of view. And then on top of the ecosystem is the business application. That's where the actual value is coming, and it's showed in the best way. And it shows that technology maturity here is quite low, but then market growth outlook and market size is huge there. But that might be also the most difficult one to get it right in a way that the most value can be brought from the data what is collected from the IoT solution. Related to this, just to note that Haltian is providing all of these layers there, and I think it's a very rare proposal or proposition in the market meaning starting from the sensor devices, different connectivity items, doing the enabled platform, we call it Things Operations Cloud, and then now we have also this large-scale business application called emphatic building. And then we have also developed all of this ourselves, so we have full technology access there, so they have not been outsourced to somebody else or manufactured in Far East countries or whatever. So we have full control of everything. So this means that we have been able to create high-level security there and also the scalability part. So we are able to adjust and adapt and also open that to other players when needed. As James showed, so the new building creation phase takes only about 5 years of the 65 years period, and then there is this 60 years period of that already been used and the main technology solutions have been already done. And it's utterly important to enable this smart creation, smart building creation, also to old buildings. And it practically means that in order to keep the investment cost and the installation cost in a reasonable level, the devices and the data collection layer should be wirelessly connected. It should be as much battery powered as possible in order to avoid expensive wiring and others. And then it needs to be flexible for different UIs, what's needed during the life cycle of the system. And those have been the principles when we have been designing the Thingsy IoT platform. So we have very wide range of Thingsy wireless sensors. So they are about this size, and installation of one sensor typically takes 1 minute or even less. So you don't need to be doing any wiring there, just place it in the right place. And then it automatically routes into gateway, which just requires a USB plug. And you are able to have hundreds of sensors behind one gateway, very cost efficient there. And then all of these are maintained in this operations cloud there. And then 2 options for utilizing the data. So we are providing API for third-party applications. So if there is some specific application or you want to be using third-party applications, so that's possible. Very easy API, typically 1 line of code to get the data over there. And then we are using mostly, and in many cases, emphatic building application, which can be used or called also as a user interface for a building. So most of the use cases can be covered with this emphatic building app. Tomi Teikko will be telling a bit later on what's actually the emphatic building application there. So, meaning that it's possible to make smart buildings already in the construction phase, but also in as a retrofitting phases. And technology anymore is not a problem. There is a lot of technology available. Then the challenges are that are you able to get this easy installation? Is it scalable? Is it reliable? Is it secure? Can you get it as a plug and play that it really works? Our customer said that we were asking that why they selected us. So they said that, well, your system just works. And then added a note that, and that's the highest compliment in this technology space. Okay, I guess that was really good one. But that's all from me at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasi. A lot of questions have come up during your presentation, which is great. But before we tackle them, if it's okay, I noticed that you have a very convenient slide called Examples of Data. Examples of Data slide, a very good slide that we're using for this poll. And I remind you that you go to the poll by going first to the menu tab, and from the menu tab to vote, and then there is this poll. And if you could take a look at the poll, it is basically that slide. So what data is important for you in smart buildings? Please let us know which data is important for you in smart buildings projects, and we'll take a look at that. But let's take all these questions, and we don't have little time, but let's try to get most of them in. So the first person who's asking you a very technical, maybe an obvious question from somebody coming from Oulu is Janne, who asks, what do you think 5G enables for smart buildings? The 5G question.
You need to be taking quite longer look on what's 5G and what's not the case. So practically, we are already using 5G connections into smart buildings. So it enables wide cellular coverage. So practically LTE category M1 is a part of 5G standard already, and it enables also efficient transfer of data from kind of rare data points. So, but if there is a lot of data points around each other, so then it's sufficient to use mesh network. But okay, mesh network is also part of the ETSI standards nowadays. So there is good progress there, but in the short term, I would not say that it's any revolution. But maybe in 10 years there will be new standards coming from the 5G.
Okay. And there's been other questions also on connectivity, so I'll take another type of question. This one is on the ecosystem we're going to be talking about a little bit later in our discussion, in panel discussion. So Jay asks you, who is the key player to implement IoT solutions for smart buildings? Is there, or so is it an ecosystem?
It depends on the life cycle of the building. If you're thinking what is the longest life cycle or the longest part of the life cycle, so that's the active use. So typically it might be even to HR function, because if the HR wants to make sure that they are able to provide the best possible end user experience, so it should be HR. It also could be CFO, meaning that you are able to get savings, for example, in the facility management companies or the investors. So there are many items, but I would be saying that if the CFO and HR are agreeing that this needs to be done, so then it will be done.
Usually that's the way it works, indeed. And a data protection question. So this is Nazrul from Muistek Oy, who asks you, who would be the owner of the data in a smart house, he writes. There will be many types of data. Some may be individual services providers, or some could be property owner of the building, and some are personal data. Who will control this data and follow and monitor it?
Very good question, and it needs to be also thought in many ways. So first of all, of course, if you are starting to share your personal data, so there are strict rules. What are you able to share and what do you want to be sharing, and it's always kind of a permission needed, and then you are practically the owner of the data. And then if you are thinking about kind of a general technical items, so the owner of that data is the owner of the building. And then, for example, if there is some general statistics of your own office usage, so then the owner of the data is the tenant or the user of the building.
And then my final question to you is one that comes up, I'm sure, quite often. Is it and Tom is asking this question, and thank you, Tom. Is it possible to satisfy both employees and CFOs?
Definitely yes.
So it's affordable, obviously, and it's worth it, obviously.
Yes, it is, and then of course the CFO needs to be also thinking these longer term benefits, that if the employees, you are able to get the excellent employees, when you are able also to get good productivity from the employees, and then you are having the data which enables you for the savings also in technical point of view, and for example premises usage percentage overview. So I think also CFO needs to be taking quite a wider view than typically is the Excel number on this month, but you need to be taking a longer look on this one.
I hope we have several CFOs listening to this, watching us today. But let's take a look at the result of the poll, Pasi. Look, so in terms of the data, we have, it's 31% for occupancy data, seems to be like the number one that is interesting for the people listening today. And then after that, tied are environmental data, air quality data, and location of people and assets. Those are definitely the top three. What do you think of that, Pasi?
I think this was in line what I expected.
There you go.
Yeah.
We are in line. Very good. Pasi, thank you so much for this.